What up, friends? Welcome back to another edition of The Drive presented by Oddschecker. With me, as always, my guy, Andy Lack at ADP Lack Sports on Twitter. Woo! Players Championship ends on a Monday. We're here later on the Monday. Everything feels compressed, Andy, and there's really bad weather being called for Tampa, where if you're not making content, you should not be making bets until you see the weather draw. The monster that is the content wheel demands some bets. And I love making outright bets responsibly on golf. I've got one. I'm sure Andy's got a couple. But, we're just sort of going to talk about the players that we feel will best suit the weather wave. It's looking like you're going to want to attack the AM PM. It seems like a hard draw bias. My least favorite thing in professional golf is when we have events that don't have draw integrity, Andy. So it's shaping up, it seems like, for one of those weeks. We play every week all summer, all into fall, so it's bound to happen. It has happened. We'll get to it in a moment. So instead, I'm going to just use this opportunity to talk to Andy about a couple things in golf. I'm going to put it on a platter for him to talk about Rory McIlroy, Players Champion, and I'm getting it from friends, Andy. The guy almost seemingly can do no right. Even when he wins, it doesn't seem like it's good enough. I don't know that there's a player that we can compare this to that I could ever think of, but just your thoughts on Rory and last week.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to try and approach this from like a golf perspective, because I've given up on trying to psychoanalyze the guy, and we have enough of a sample size here that like there isn't really a result out there that is predictive for Rory at majors, right? Like Rory has had times where he's been playing some of the best golf of his career directly leading into a major, hasn't mattered at all. He's had some of his best major finishes of his career when he was not in the best form. He's had great majors when he's not driving it great coming in, great majors when he's putting it great coming in. Um, we've got the gamut on everything with Rory at this point in time over the course of a 15-year career, where I'm hesitant to suggest that this really moves the needle in any meaningful way for me in terms of how I expect him to perform at the 2025 major championships. I will say the most notable thing to me is that Rory's winning at golf courses that do not yield an inherent advantage for his skill set, and that feels notable to me. Um,
Two stateside wins like this and elevated at Pebble, Sawgrass, not driver heavy courses.
yeah,
I got to just throw it at you, though, Andy. Like, I don't know that Rory's ever won two events like this stateside before Augusta.
yeah.
So just, I mean, it's almost unfair to Rory to take a great accomplishment like winning the Players, and moments after, it's sort of like, okay, tell me about the Masters. But Andy, like, how do you think it's gonna stack up? Is there any number? I don't want to say any number, but like, what would even be a fair number that you'd even consider betting Rory to win this Masters?
Well, I'm good on Rory at the Masters. I mean, he would need to drift in the type of way that he drifted this week at the Players for me to bet him under 20 to 1 to win the Masters. I just it's a cross off for me in the sense that I'll get my one and done exposure, DraftKings exposure. I don't need to bet him to win the Masters or experience joy on having that ticket after what I saw last year, where he was best player on property for 2 rounds at Augusta, in my opinion. In my trained or untrained eye, your mileage may vary on that, but I've been going to golf tournaments since I was, 6 or 7 years old. And um, what I watched out of Rory and Ludwig on Masters Week in 2024, like it was just they're playing a different game than the other players that I watched. And the Ludwig prophecy came true. And when Rory stepped on the first tee on Thursday, it's like he was body snatched with Tom Hoge. He hit his first drive in the right bunker, and it's like the entire air was let out of the balloon. The shoulders were slumped, and it was like, what happened to the guy that was, just basically walking on a cloud 12 hours ago, shooting 32 on this golf course and showing Ludwig how to play it. So I've kind of reached the point with Rory where I just there's nothing that could happen leading in that is going to move the needle for me significantly. I do think an interesting conversation, however, is whether you think he's more like or should be favored over Scheffler at the Masters, whether you think he's more likely to win the Masters than Scheffler. To me, Scheffler's still the best player in the world. To me, Scheffler should still be a favorite over Rory at Augusta. But the gap is closing, certainly. The gap is certainly closing. I'll give you that.
I enjoyed that, Andy. My 1 minute on something from last week that has nothing really related to the Valspar board is what I believe a crippling error Collin Morikawa made in telling the media and fans that he owes them nothing, and then not liking the backlash he was getting, that it almost made him emotional and he had to defend himself by telling us he signs autographs. Well, congrats, Colin, that you sign autographs. But to casuals, I'll just use my dad as an example. 80-year-old guy watches a ton of Golf Channel. They don't throw darts at Collin Morikawa. Collin Morikawa is a protected golfer. My dad watches golf every week, but he's an older guy. He doesn't know Collin Morikawa hadn't won in 500 days. You know what he does know now? You know what he does know now? In one single week, Collin Morikawa went from a blemish-free golfer to a guy that's being talked about as a bit of a choker and a bit of a jerk.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And I believe it might weigh on him through the year because he seems like a pretty sensitive guy. It's just unfortunate. I didn't like it. I didn't like that he said it. Bay Hill, like, what sport has more opportunity to win than golf? Bay Hill, right? Like, there's 4 major championships. There's a player championship. There's playoff events, right? Bay Hill's what? Like, you could rank them, but it's still not like a top 5 or 6 event on tour. Like, you lost Bay Hill. Suck it up. I can't believe it. Again, went from a guy that pretty much had no blemishes on the reputation to quickly being talked about as a bit of a choker and a jerk. We knew that in like the hyper niche golf sphere. I don't know. Oh, I say the jerk part, but the 500 days, I'm not even really want to call him a choker. It's not like he blew it. Like, he just Henley took it from him. He went neutral. Well, whatever. But that totally disappointed. Anyhow, Valspar. I made a bet, Andy. We've spoken about that weather wave. But I bet Will Zalatoris at 28-1 at Bet Rivers this morning.
Hell fucking yeah, you did.
Valspar, it's penal. It's narrow. The winning score fits the Willie's track record. He can putt on Bermuda greens. He was strong at putting on those greens last week. I don't care that he made I didn't bet him last week, so I didn't care that he made a quad and blew his tournament on Saturday. Like, that didn't bother me. He didn't end up having the top finish. That historically hasn't shown to matter. So to a top finish at the Players hasn't historically mattered in terms of winning the Valspar. I like everything I'm seeing out of Will Zalatoris. If you have a future for him for major season, you're probably very thrilled with how last week went. And I hope you're going to be even happier when he knocks one off this weekend in Tampa.
I was on Will last week at 90-1, and Will was leading the Players on Saturday morning, like even Saturday early afternoon. And then he made a quad,
He
double,
melted. Yeah.
another double. But the bones are there. I mean, he's him and I think Tom Kim. Tom Kim gained almost 10 strokes on approach at the Players. Both of those two guys are very similar to me right now. Neither of them have ever played the Valspar. Both of them are like two of the best iron players in the field right now with Tommy. I mean, oh gosh, we'll skip right by him on the odds board, but Geoff,
Well, I don't want to talk about it. Tommy is just
it's the best he's played in his career.
yeah. I don't know. I don't even know what to say. You can't hit 5 footers. It's just we
Yeah.
gotta
No, I
just
know. I was on him last week, but
and his number might drift this week as people are upset with him, and someone who's not bet him much will probably come in and enjoy it. But I just can't. Have you bet Tom Kim as well as Willie, or just
no,
Willie?
I'm circling around both those. I really liked Akshay before he withdrew. Um, it's funny actually. Like Dan Berger and Aaron Rye were previously in this field, and like that probably would have been my card. Um, I made two bets. I bet one guy at 140 and one guy at 75, but I'm waiting for the tee times. I'll tell you this. If I was choosing the top of the board, um, I would choose Lowry, Zalatoris, Tom Kim. Those are my three favorites.
So just to tell people, if you see that draw come out, on Tuesday, and those
What
guys are in,
times do you usually come out? Like
that's kind of I don't know, and they could be
3
because they
p.m.
know it matters so much this week. I don't know if they're going to play games or hold off. There's going to be angry players who end up on the wrong side of it, so they're not going to want to get yelled at by, by players who are upset. I'm not sure, but yeah, Lowry, anytime it's going to be a little testy out there. So I like those shouts. But you said you've bet someone at 75 and north of that. Who might that be?
I'm gonna ride the Bud Cauley thing. I think Bud Cauley's good. Um, Often when somebody has a spike performance like that out of left field, I'm like, there's no way that he can follow it up. But Bud Cauley was showing in the numbers for me prior to the players and at the Valspar that this thing was happening with Bud. And I think one thing that I need to get a little bit better at in betting is when somebody, from left field has a crazy spike performance and contends to win a tournament, my immediate reaction is sell high, right? But then you miss out on things like Michael Kim's little micro hot streak where he finishes top 15 5 events in a row. Um, and I just think Bud Cauley could be March's Michael Kim. Like, I just think the guy is good. And on this golf course, it's golf course dependent. I wouldn't be betting Bud Cauley the following week if it was a different golf course than this. But on this golf course, um, I think Bud's going to keep his foot on the gas, and we might see something might happen with Bud Cauley this week. I bet him 75 to 1 on FanDuel.
From the middle of the board, Andy, it's Adam Scott who would potentially have my
I've just
attention.
done it with him so many times, man. He looks good in my numbers too. I get
Yeah,
it. My
and this is
numbers
the
read him
penal
out loud.
golf course. A straight flusher would fit properly along the other winners here. That would be the guy I'm looking at, seeing it like 45, 50 to 1. But he's got to get on the right side of the draw. So going deeper down the board, you mentioned you have a 140. Like throw that bomb. Find me a winner north of 100, Andy
Rico,
Black.
Uncle
Rico
Rico.
Hoy.
Geoff Fienberg, who led the field in driving at the Players Championship.
Well, you've spoiled it. I would not have I wouldn't have guessed it.
Uncle
Oh
Rico.
yeah, wow. Lost 7 strokes putting, but was pretty
Yeah.
much
Oh, yeah.
marvelous every
We don't want
other
to talk about
aspect
that.
of
We
the
can't
game.
talk about that part, but guess what, Jeffrey? Baked into the number. That's my excuse for the putting. Baked into the number.
Yeah. I I, I don't mind the shout. You look at the way that he's striking the ball right now. He's shown an ability to, be a pretty decent putter, even dare I say like spike at times. So I might be all in on this one with you, Andy. 140 to 1, Rico Hoy. Just want to go find checking the odds checker grid right now to find the biggest I can. 150. 150 over at Bet Rivers, as low as 100. So disparity there. Get it on that one if you want to tail with Andy. If I had to pick a guy
So
out,
you've made nothing outside of Will the Thrill.
I've
You've
made
not
nothing
played
outside of
anything.
Will the Thrill, and then I'm seeing the rain stuff, and I'm not kidding. Like, plug your nose for a bet I'd want to make. I kind of hope this guy ends up on the wrong side of the draw, so I don't end up betting it. But scary to say it, Doug Gim. I know he
Yeah.
was horrible at the players, came in with a little bit of hype. You need a spike putting week. The outright win might be a big ask. There's money to be made in Doug Gim this week, especially if he ends up on the right side of the draw. That would be
Mhm.
my suggestion north of 100.
Yeah, agree wholeheartedly. I'm a big Doug Gim guy. It doesn't take much for me. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm swimming around. What about Connors? We never
I
mentioned
love
Connors.
Connors is right there with Willie and Shane Lowry as a guy. Like if they end up on the right side of it, I could easily be there. I don't feel great about a lot of it right now, so I could see myself having one uh adding Connors or Lowry to my card and then just like playing a bomb or somewhere in the middle. I don't have a good vibe on this board, and lucky I don't know, we got a bit of a I'm gonna breathe. Didn't have to rush to make any bets because I don't want to play into this weather until I what see more of what is up. Ready to make your smartest play? Odds Checker turns AI powered data into winning opportunities across all sports with real time insights and odds comparison. You can spot trends fast, find the best value, and bet smarter. Why guess? Visit Odds Checker now. Turn data into smarter plays. Odds Checkers for entertainment purposes only and does not offer real money betting. Remember, gambling should be fun, so bet responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, help is available. Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the US. Took a bit of a different approach this week, friends, as Andy and I, don't want to bet into this weather, advising you guys to keep an eye for it as well. Mentioning the players we've already bet, certainly in on. Andy gave his talk on Rory. I shredded it. Well, I think I took it to Collin a little bit. We'll be back next week as the Florida swing ends. Hasn't been the greatest swing, so let's get to Texas. We'll get a winner on the way out. For Andy, I am Geoff.
Cheers.
May the winners be yours.